Ambassador Day stood in the grand chamber and felt very small. The room was bigger than any stadium on Earth. Above him, the ceiling showed the stars themselves swirling in patterns that made his eyes hurt if he looked too long. Around him sat representatives from hundreds of alien worlds. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Day could not tell which end was their head. Day had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now. He had worked hard to make humanity look good to the galaxy. He smiled at the right times. He learned alien customs. He never complained when the food at diplomatic dinners made him sick for days. All because he believed in peace. He believed humanity could find its place among the stars without violence. Today, that belief was being tested. High Speaker Thexeral rose from his seat at the center of the chamber. The alien was 12 feet tall and made of living crystal. Light moved through his body in ways that seemed impossible. When he spoke, his voice echoed from every wall at once. "We gather today to discuss the matter of humanity," Thexeral said. His tone was calm, almost friendly. That made Day more nervous than anger would have. Day straightened his suit and tried to keep his hands from shaking. Behind him stood 2 other humans. Captain High was a military officer with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. Director Tay was older, quiet, and always seemed to be thinking about something else. Both of them had warned Day that this meeting might not go well. "Humanity has been part of our galactic community for 15 years, Thexeral continued. "In that time you have built colonies on 17 worlds. You have created new ships, new weapons, new technologies. You grow faster than any species we have seen in a very long time." Other aliens in the chamber made sounds of agreement. Some nodded. Others made gestures that Day had learned meant the same thing. "This growth concerns us," Thexeral said. The friendly tone was gone now. "Rapid expansion causes instability. New technologies can be dangerous. For the good of all species, the Council has decided that humanity must accept certain protective measures." Day felt his stomach drop. Protective measures? He had heard those words before in diplomatic reports. They never meant anything good. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed numbers and charts in a dozen alien languages. Day's translator device struggled to keep up, but he caught enough to understand. His blood went cold. "Humanity will transfer 70% of all industrial production to Council management," Thexeral announced. 80% of your military fleet will be placed under Council command. All future technological development will require Council approval. Earth and all human colonies will accept Council governors to ensure compliance. The chamber was silent. Day could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. This was not protection. This was conquest. They wanted to take everything humanity had built and put chains on human ambition. "These terms are non-negotiable," Thexeral said. "Every species that joins the Council accepts similar arrangements. It is how we maintain peace. It is how we prevent war." Day wanted to shout. He wanted to tell them that this was insane. But years of diplomatic training kept his voice steady. "High Speaker, with respect, these terms seem very harsh. May I ask why humanity specifically requires such measures?" Thexeral's crystal body flashed with colors that Day's translator said meant irritation. "Your question proves why they are necessary. You do not understand galactic stability. You are too young, too aggressive, too unpredictable. The Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years. We know what we are doing. And if humanity refuses?" Day asked quietly. The chamber erupted. Aliens made sounds of shock, anger, and what might have been laughter. No one refused the Council. The idea seemed absurd to them. Thexeral waited for silence before responding. "If humanity refuses, you will face consequences. Economic blockades. No species will trade with you. Technology embargoes. No one will share knowledge with you. And if necessary, military peacekeeping actions to protect both humanity and the galaxy from humanity's own reckless behavior." Behind Day, Captain High shifted her weight. It was a tiny movement, but Day knew her well enough to recognize it. She was calculating, counting ships, thinking about battles. He hoped desperately that it would not come to that. "We have destroyed 3 species who threatened galactic peace," Thexeral said softly. "We would regret adding humanity to that list, but we will do what we must." Director Tay leaned forward and whispered in Day's ear. "He's not bluffing. We found records. 3 species that refused Council terms all suffered mysterious accidents within a decade. Pirates, plagues, rebellions, all linked back to Council operations." Day closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about Earth. about the blue oceans and green forests he had not seen in 3 years, about his daughter who was starting university, about the 10 billion humans who had no idea that their future was being decided in this room. "High Speaker," Day said carefully, "this is a significant decision. I must consult with my government before I can respond to these terms." "Of course," Thexerel said. He sounded pleased, like a teacher praising a slow student for finally understanding. "You have 30 days. Return here with Earth's acceptance and we will proceed peacefully. The Council is patient. We have waited 3,000 years to perfect our system. We can wait 30 more days." The hologram changed, showing a countdown. 30 days. 720 hours. 43,200 minutes for humanity to decide its own fate. "This meeting is concluded," Thexerel announced. "Ambassador Day, we look forward to your return." And your compliance. The chamber began to empty. Aliens of every shape and size filed out through dozens of exits. Some glanced at Day with what might have been pity. Others avoided looking at him at all. Captain High and Director Tay moved closer to Day as the crowd thinned. They said nothing, but they did not need to. Their faces told the whole story. "Get us back to the ship," Day said quietly. "We need to contact Earth immediately. And get me everything we have on those 3 species the Council destroyed. Everything." As they walked through the enormous corridors of the Council station, Day felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. 30 days. In 30 days he would return to this place. But he had no idea what answer he would bring. He only knew that humanity's answer would change everything, one way or another. The stars outside the viewport looked cold and distant. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning through the darkness. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were going about their lives, unaware that extinction or enslavement might be coming for them. Day had dedicated his life to peace, but sometimes he was starting to realize peace required the courage to say no. The secret facility called Horizon's Edge floated in the darkness beyond Neptune. No official records mentioned it. No navigation charts showed its location. Only a handful of people in the entire solar system knew it existed. Today, those people had gathered in its main conference room. Ambassador Day looked around the table at humanity's leadership. Prime Minister Yuna sat at the head, her face tired but determined. She had barely slept since receiving Day's emergency transmission 4 days ago. Captain High was present via hologram, her ship still positioned near the Council station to monitor their activities. Director Tay sat across from Day, surrounded by stacks of data pads and files. Around them sat generals, scientists, economists, and representatives from every major human colony. The room was crowded and tense. Everyone knew what was at stake. "Let's be clear about what they're asking for," Prime Minister Yuna said, her voice cut through the nervous chatter. "They want most of our factories, most of our ships, and control over our entire future. They want humanity to become a client state, a slave species in all but name." "It's worse than that," Director Tay said. He stood and activated a holographic display. Images and documents filled the air above the table. "For the past 10 years, I've had agents gathering intelligence on the Council. What they've found is disturbing. The first image showed a species Day did not recognize. They looked almost like Earth's dolphins, but with arms and legs. "The Valkyrie," Tay explained. 3,000 years ago, they joined the Council. They were brilliant engineers. Within a century, they had developed faster-than-light technology that was superior to what the Council used. The Council called it dangerous, unstable. They confiscated the technology and placed restrictions on Valkyrie research. Today, the Valkyrie work in Council factories. They have not invented anything new in 2,000 years. The image changed to show an insect-like species, the Trell Collective. They refused Council terms 800 years ago. Within 5 years, their colony worlds were hit by a mysterious plague. Then pirates attacked their trade routes. Then their government collapsed in civil war. The Council stepped in as peacekeepers and saved them, in exchange for total submission. More images flashed past, more species. More stories of suppression, manipulation, and destruction. "The pattern is clear," Tay said. "The Council does not protect younger species. It exploits them. Any species that shows independence, that innovates too quickly, that might threaten Council dominance is crushed. Sometimes slowly through economic pressure, sometimes quickly through violence disguised as something else." The room erupted in angry voices. Generals demanded war. Politicians argued for caution. Colony representatives worried about their vulnerable settlements. Prime Minister Yuna raised her hand for silence. Director Tay, do you have proof? Real evidence that could convince other species? Yes, Tay said. My agents have intercepted communications, financial records, military deployment orders. The Council has been sloppy because no one has challenged them in so long. We can prove their crimes. Then we expose them, said General Bora, one of the senior military commanders. We bring this evidence to the galactic community. We force the Council to answer for what they've done. They'll deny everything, another official said. They'll call it human propaganda. They've spent 3,000 years building their reputation. Why would anyone believe us? Captain High's hologram leaned forward. Because we're not the only ones who suffer under Council rule. Dozens of species are trapped in the same system we're being forced into. If we show them the truth, if we offer them an alternative, some of them will join us. An alternative? Yuna asked. What alternative can we offer? Freedom, Day said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We offer them what the Council never has. Free trade with no tributes. Technology sharing with no restrictions. Mutual defense with no masters. True independence. Beautiful words, said General Bora. But words won't stop Council warships. If we refuse their terms, they'll come for Earth. Can we win that fight? All eyes turned to Captain High. She was silent for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. The Council fleet is massive, she said. They have thousands of ships. Tens of thousands. Their technology is powerful. She paused. But it's old, very old. I've studied their battle tactics, their ship designs, their weapons. They haven't changed in centuries. They rely on overwhelming force because they've never needed to be creative. She pulled up her own tactical displays. Human ships are smaller and newer. We have artificial intelligence systems the Council banned as dangerous. We have experimental weapons they've never seen. We have tactics based on chaos and adaptation, rather than rigid formation flying. In a straight fight, we lose. But we don't have to fight straight. You're talking about guerrilla warfare, General Bora said. Hit and run, ambushes using our smaller size as an advantage. Exactly, High said. We can't match their numbers, but we can make every engagement too costly for them. We can make them bleed for every system they take. And if other species join us, if we can build a real coalition, then the numbers change completely. Prime Minister Yuna looked around the table. Let me make sure I understand what we're discussing. We would refuse the Council's terms. We would publicly expose their crimes. We would offer alliance to any species brave enough to stand with us, and we would prepare for war. Yes, Day said. It's insane, said one of the colony representatives. We've been in space for barely 50 years. The Council has ruled the galaxy for 3,000. Who are we to challenge them? We're human, said a young woman named Sua from the Communications Division. She had been quiet until now. That's who we are. Humans don't kneel. We never have. Every tyrant in our history thought they could break us. They were all wrong. The room fell silent. Sua looked embarrassed by her outburst, but she did not take the words back. Prime Minister Yuna stood slowly. 10 years ago, I visited the memorial at Normandy. Do you know what I thought about as I walked among those graves? I thought about the courage it takes to fight when victory seems impossible. To stand against evil even when the cost is terrible. She looked around the room. Our ancestors faced empires and dictators. They fought slavery, fascism, and oppression in all its forms. Sometimes they lost. Sometimes they died. But they never stopped believing that freedom was worth fighting for. She placed her hands on the table. The Council believes humanity will submit because every other species has submitted. They believe we're predictable. That we'll choose survival over principle. They're wrong. Madam Prime Minister, Day said, I must ask. Are you certain? This decision could mean the death of billions. It could mean the end of humanity as a spacefaring species. Yuna met his eyes. And submission means the slow death of everything that makes us human. Our creativity. Our independence. Our dreams of what we might become. I would rather face the Council's fleets than live as their slaves. She looked around the table one more time. All in favor of refusing the Council's terms? Every hand went up. Some quickly, some slowly. But eventually every person in the room voted for defiance. Then it's decided, Yuna said. We have 26 days before Ambassador Day must return to the Council. Captain High, prepare our fleets for combat but keep them hidden. Director Tay, reach out to sympathetic species quietly, very quietly. Sua, prepare a broadcast that will reach every corner of the galaxy. When we make our move, everyone will know the truth. She looked at Day. Ambassador, you'll need a speech. The most important speech in human history. Make it count. As the meeting broke up and people rushed off to their tasks, Day stood alone by the viewport. Outside, the distant sun was just a bright star among billions. Earth was invisible from here, lost in the vastness of space. In 26 days, he would stand before the council again. But this time, he would not be begging for mercy. This time, humanity would roar. The council chamber was even more crowded than it had been 30 days ago. Word had spread across the galaxy that humanity would give its answer today. Representatives from hundreds of worlds wanted to witness the moment when the newest species learned its place in the galactic order. High Speaker Thexral sat in his elevated seat, his crystal body glowing with satisfaction. Around him, the other council members looked equally pleased. Below them, in the lower sections, representatives of the subjugated species waited quietly. They had all gone through this same ritual. They knew how it ended. The massive doors at the chamber's entrance opened. Ambassador Day walked in, flanked by Captain High and Director Tay. Behind them came 20 more humans, all dressed in formal diplomatic attire. They moved with purpose, their heads held high. Day had not slept much in the past month. He had spent every day preparing for this moment, writing speeches, reviewing evidence, rehearsing with his team. Now as he walked across the vast floor toward the center of the chamber, he felt strangely calm. Fear and doubt had burned away over the past 30 days. Only certainty remained. Ambassador Day, Thexral's voice echoed through the chamber. Welcome back. We trust you bring Earth's acceptance of the Council's generous terms. Day stopped in the center of the chamber. Above him, holographic screens activated, ready to display humanity's oath of submission. Billions across the galaxy were watching this broadcast. The Council always made sure everyone saw when a species bent the knee. High Speaker, Day said. His voice was steady. I bring humanity's answer to your demands. Excellent, Thexral said. Please proceed. Day looked up at the council members. Then he looked around at all the other species in the chamber. Finally, he looked directly at the cameras that were broadcasting this moment across the stars. Humanity's answer is no. The chamber went silent. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. It was as if the entire galaxy had taken a breath and forgotten to let it go. Thexral's crystal body flashed red. What did you say? I said no, Day repeated louder this time. Humanity rejects your terms. All of them. We will not give you our factories. We will not give you our ships. We will not accept your governors. We will not submit to your tyranny. The chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens shouted in 100 languages. Some sounded angry. Some sounded shocked. A few sounded hopeful. Thexral raised his hands and the room fell silent again. Ambassador, I think you misunderstand your position. The Council's terms are not a negotiation. They are a requirement for membership in galactic civilization. Every species accepts them. Every species. Every species has been forced to accept them, Day said, just as you're trying to force humanity. But we've learned something interesting in the past 30 days. We've learned the truth about the Council. Director Tay stepped forward and activated his own holographic display. The images that appeared above the chamber floor made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. This is the Velkari homeworld 3,000 years ago, Tay said. The hologram showed a beautiful planet with gleaming cities. The Velkari were brilliant inventors. They developed technology that surpassed what the Council had. The Council called it dangerous and confiscated it. The image changed. This is the Velkari homeworld today. Their cities are factories. Their people are workers. They have invented nothing new in 2,000 years because the Council does not allow it. More images appeared. Financial records. Communications between Council members. Military deployment orders. The Council does not protect younger species, Tay continued. It exploits them. Any species that shows independence is crushed, sometimes through economic warfare, sometimes through violence. We have the proof. Communications showing how the Council destroyed the Trell Collective. How you manipulated the Orin into civil war. How you've maintained power not through wisdom but through fear and oppression. The chamber was in uproar again. Council members were shouting denials. Other species representatives were on their feet, some demanding to see more evidence, others trying to shout the humans down. High Speaker Thexral's voice cut through the noise like a blade.
These are lies.
Forgeries. Human propaganda designed to justify their rebellion. Then explain this, Day said. He pulled up another document. This is a military order from Council Fleet Commander Vexral to destroy a Trell colony. The order is encrypted with Council security codes that only high-level officials have access to. The attack was blamed on pirates. But it was you. More documents appeared. More evidence. More proof. With each revelation, more species representatives looked shocked, then angry. Even if any of this were true, Thexerel said, it changes nothing. The Council maintains order. We prevent chaos. Without us, the galaxy would fall into endless war. No, Day said. Without you, the galaxy would be free. He turned to address the entire chamber. The Council demands that humanity submit or face destruction. But we have another option. Humanity offers a different path. Free trade between species. Technology sharing without restrictions. Mutual defense without masters. We offer true independence to any species brave enough to take it. You offer chaos, Thexerel said. You offer war. The Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years. Who are you to challenge that? We're human, Captain High said, stepping forward. We're the species that looked at your corrupt system and decided it was better to fight than to submit. We're the species that believes freedom is worth dying for. Then you will die, Thexerel said coldly. Council military forces are hereby authorized to enforce compliance. Humanity has 1 hour to reconsider. After that, we will begin peacekeeping operations against all human worlds. We will not reconsider, Day said. And you should know something else. We're not alone. A movement at the edge of the chamber drew everyone's attention. A Velkari representative stood up from her seat. She was old, her dolphin-like features weathered by time. She walked slowly toward the center of the chamber where the humans stood. My name is Rena, she said in a voice that shook with emotion. I am 300 years old. I remember when my people invented new things, when we dreamed of the stars, before the Council took our dreams away. She looked at Thexerel. The humans speak truth. I stand with them. She moved to stand beside Day. For a moment, nothing happened. Then another alien stood up. Then another. Then 5 more. Then 20. Representatives from 40 different species left their seats and walked to the center of the chamber. Some were from species that had been suppressed for centuries. Others were from younger species who recognized that they were next on the Council's list. All of them were tired of being afraid. This is sedition, Thexerel roared. This is rebellion. All of you will face the consequences. Let them come, said a tall alien with features like a praying mantis. We have been slaves long enough. Day looked at the species standing with humanity. 40 species. It was not many compared to the hundreds in the chamber, but it was a start. High Speaker, Day said. You wanted humanity's answer. Here it is. We will not submit. We will not kneel. And we will not stand alone. Your reign of fear ends today. Thexerel stood, and his crystal body blazed with light so bright it hurt to look at. Then today is the day humanity dies. Council fleets are hereby ordered to advance on Earth and all human colonies, destroy their military, occupy their worlds, make an example of them so that no other species ever dares to defy us again. Alarms began sounding throughout the station. Through the viewport, ships could be seen moving. The Council fleet was mobilizing for war. Captain High pulled out a small communication device. All human ships, this is Captain High. Execute Protocol Phoenix. Fall back to defensive positions. The war has begun. Day looked one more time at High Speaker Thexerel. You could have let us live in peace. You could have treated us as equals. Instead, you chose this. Whatever happens now, remember that you made this choice. No, Thexerel said. You made this choice, and now you will pay for it with extinction. The humans and their new allies left the chamber together. Behind them, the Council members were already planning their attack. Above them, fleets were gathering. Across the galaxy, billions watched and wondered what would happen next. The greatest war in galactic history was about to begin. And it started because one species refused to bow. The Battle of Kepler Station began at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in deep space. Captain High stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Soul, and watched 200 Council warships drop out of faster-than-light travel. They appeared like stars suddenly igniting in the darkness, their massive forms bristling with weapons. They're not even trying to hide, said Commander Jiho, her second in command. They want us to see them. They want us to be afraid. Then let's disappoint them, High said. All ships, this is Captain High, remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Make them regret coming here. Kepler Station was humanity's largest colony outside the home system. 2 million people lived there, working in the asteroid mines and ship construction facilities. The Council wanted to destroy it first to show humanity what defiance cost. They expected an easy victory. They had 200 warships. Humanity had only 47. The Council fleet advanced in a rigid formation exactly as their tactics manuals prescribed. They had used the same battle formations for 1,000 years. Why change what worked? Hai had studied those formations for months. She knew every weakness. Launch the drones, she ordered. From the human ships, thousands of small combat drones erupted like angry insects. They were cheap, fast, and numerous. Each one carried a single high-explosive charge. The Council fleet opened fire with their massive cannons, destroying hundreds of drones. But there were too many. They swarmed around the Council ships like bees around a bear. The first drone struck a Council destroyer. The explosion was small, barely scratching the ship's armor. Then 10 more hit, then 100. Each explosion was tiny, but together they began to tear through the heavy plating. The Council fleet broke formation, trying to swat away the drones. Their massive ships maneuvered clumsily, designed for head-on battles rather than swarming tactics. Human ships darted between them like sharks among whales, firing precise shots at exposed weak points. Enemy flagship is turning toward us, Jiho reported. They're locking weapons. Good, Hai said. Let them come. Fire the Reaper. The Reaper was humanity's newest weapon, and the Council had never seen anything like it. It was a missile that phased partially out of normal space, passing through shields and armor as if they did not exist. When it rematerialized inside a ship's hull, the explosion was devastating. The Council flagship never saw it coming. One moment their shields were holding strong. The next, their entire engineering section exploded from the inside. The massive ship listed to the side, leaking atmosphere and debris. Direct hit, Jiho said with grim satisfaction. Their flagship is disabled. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Council had numbers, but humanity had surprise. Every tactic the Council tried, the humans had a counter for. Every formation they used, the humans exploited. The rigid command structure that had served the Council for centuries became a weakness when fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules. By the time the Council fleet retreated, they had lost 163 ships. Humanity lost 12. It was not even close. News of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Council fleet, which had not lost a battle in 1,000 years, had been routed by a species barely 50 years old. 20 more species joined humanity's coalition. Some sent ships. Others sent intelligence. All of them felt hope for the first time in centuries. But the Council was not finished. Not by a long way. 6 months later, 800 Council warships gathered for the assault on Earth itself. It was the largest military fleet ever assembled. They would crush humanity's homeworld and end this rebellion once and for all. Captain Hai stood on the Bridge of the Soul again, but this time she stood in orbit around Earth. Every human ship had returned home. Every ship from allied species had joined them. Together they numbered just over 300 vessels. It was not enough. Not nearly enough. They'll be here in 2 hours, Jiho said quietly. Hai looked at the blue and green planet below. She had been born down there in a small town by the sea. She had always dreamed of the stars. How she might die defending Earth from them. Is everything ready? She asked. The Prometheus protocol is armed, Jiho said. But Captain, if we use it... I know what it means, Hai said. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The Council fleet arrived exactly on time. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, a wall of warships stretching across space. At their center was a new flagship, even larger than the one destroyed at Kepler. High Speaker Thexrel himself commanded the fleet. He wanted to personally oversee humanity's extinction. People of Earth, his voice boomed across all frequencies. You have defied the Council. You have spread lies and propaganda. You have convinced weaker species to join your doomed rebellion. Now you will pay the price. Surrender immediately and we will show mercy. Resist and we will erase every trace of humanity from the galaxy. Ambassador Day, watching from the surface, responded over the same frequencies. We will never surrender. Come and make us. The battle began. The Council fleet advanced with overwhelming firepower. Human ships fell back using hit-and-run tactics, but there were too many enemies. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened fire. turning asteroids into kinetic weapons that smashed into Council ships. Experimental missiles phased through shields. Drone swarms harassed larger vessels. But it was not enough. The Council fleet pushed forward, accepting losses that would have made any other commander retreat. They did not care how many ships they lost. They only cared about winning. "Captain, we've lost 40 ships, Jiho reported. His voice was steady, but Hai could hear the fear underneath. "The defense platforms are down. They're breaking through." Hai was about to give the order to activate the Prometheus protocol when something appeared on the sensors. "New ships. Lots of them." "Captain, I'm reading 150 vessels emerging from FTL," the sensor officer said. "They're not Council ships. They're from the Coalition." Hai felt hope surge in her chest. The reinforcements had arrived. Species that had been secretly building fleets waiting for this moment. Species that had been inspired by humanity's courage. They all arrived together, a fleet of free worlds standing against tyranny. The Council fleet suddenly found itself caught between two forces. Human and allied ships pressed from both sides. The Council's rigid tactics could not adapt. They fought the same way they always had, with overwhelming force and no creativity. But humanity and its allies fought differently. They coordinated. They adapted. They improvised. When one tactic failed, they tried another. When a ship was damaged, 3 others covered its retreat. They fought like a living thing, flowing around the enemy's strengths and exploiting their weaknesses. The battle lasted 72 hours. Ships from dozens of species fought and died together. The space around Earth became a graveyard of broken vessels and shattered dreams. But slowly, impossibly, the Council fleet began to break. "Their flagship is retreating," Jiho said in disbelief. "Thexrel is running. All ships pursue," Hai ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The Council fleet that had come to destroy Earth fled in disorder. Ships broke formation and scattered. Some surrendered. Others activated their FTL drives and vanished into the stars. The fleet that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was defeated. Hai collapsed into her command chair, exhausted. Around her, the bridge crew was cheering. Outside, Earth still spun peacefully, scarred but alive. "Get me a damage report," she said quietly, "and a casualty count." The numbers when they came were terrible. Over 10,000 ships destroyed. 3 billion lives lost across multiple species. Entire fleets wiped out. Colonies damaged or destroyed. The price of victory was almost too high to bear, but Earth survived. Humanity survived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Hai looked at the planet below and thought about all the people who had died to protect it. She thought about the young officer from the first battle who had been so confident. She thought about the pilots who flew into impossible odds without hesitation. She thought about every species that had joined the fight, knowing they might not survive. "It's over," Jiho said. "No," Hai said softly. "It's just beginning."